Hey everyone, welcome to another installment of Harry Potter Theory. Today we'll be discussing why Lucius Malfoy placed Tom Riddle's diary into Ginny Weasley's cauldron in the fall of 1992. The second installment of Harry Potter, The Chamber of Secrets, revolves around a magically sealed-off area within Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry that goes by the same name as this volume in the series, The Chamber of Secrets. Housing a rather ancient basilisk for hundreds of years in the bowels of Hogwarts Castle, the Chamber of Secrets is mysteriously reopened during Harry's second year at school, sometime in the fall of 1992. The reopening of the chamber releases the Basilisk, a giant, legendary serpent which has fatally venomous fangs and eyes that can kill if a victim looks directly at them. A basilisk stare also has the ability to petrify its victims if they do not look directly into the eyes of the giant snake. In the novel, Harry learns about this terrifying magical beast in a page torn out from a very old library book that reads, "Of the many fearsome beasts and monsters that roam our land, there is none more curious or more deadly than the basilisk, known also as the King of Serpents. This snake, which may reach gigantic size and live many hundreds of years, is born from a chicken's egg, hatched beneath a toad. Its methods of killing are most wondrous, for aside from its deadly and venomous fangs, the basilisk has a murderous stare, and all who are fixed with the beam of its eye shall suffer instant death. Being that the basilisk is essentially just an enormous snake, or king of serpents if you will, it should come as little to no surprise that the key to opening the Chamber of Secrets, where one of these such creatures lived, was the ability to speak Parseltongue. Parseltongue is an ancient language that witches and wizards use to communicate with snakes. However, this is not a skill that can be learned, as this language of the serpents, which sounds like a bunch of hissing noises, can only be spoken by those born with the ability to do so. Those who can speak Parseltongue are known as Parselmouths, and nearly all of them are believed to be descendants of Salazar Slytherin, one of the 4 founding members of Hogwarts and builder of the Chamber of Secrets. In order to access the chamber, a command needed to be given in Parseltongue, the equivalent of the English word open, at a sink with a snake-engraved tap that was located in the girls' lavatory on the 2nd floor of Hogwarts Castle. In response to the correct Parseltongue command, the sink would transform into an opening that led down into a passageway. At this point in the video, I know what you're thinking. What does all this have to do with Ginny Weasley, Tom Riddle's diary, and Lucius Malfoy? As it turns out, just about everything. You see, because Lucius Malfoy had been a Death Eater, supporting Lord Voldemort during his first rise to power in the 1970s, he had come into possession of Tom's diary, which of course was Voldemort's diary, as the Dark Lord had once gone by the name of Tom Riddle. How exactly Lucius received the diary, no one really knows, but receive it he did. Now, although Lucius didn't quite understand what the diary was, as we the audience later learn it was one of Voldemort's Horcruxes, Mr. Malfoy did know that it was an incredibly valuable dark object, one that the Dark Lord had gone to great lengths to keep guarded. I believe that Lucius also had an understanding of what the diary could do if it were to find itself within the hallowed halls of Hogwarts. That is, Lucius was likely well aware that the diary was somehow capable of bringing death to Muggleborns. He may have even known that it was the key to covertly reopening the legendary Chamber of Secrets. As the chamber had been built by Salazar Slytherin, who did not believe that Muggle-born witches and wizards should be allowed to study magic at Hogwarts, it was alleged that the monster inside of it, the Basilisk, had the sole goal of purging students from the school who were not born into magical families. Of course, whether or not Lucius was able to put all of this together, we may never know. As it were, Lucius Malfoy was not secretive about his prejudice towards Muggles and Muggle-born individuals. He did not believe them equal to pure-blooded families like his own house of Malfoy, nor did he think they deserved the right to study alongside pure-blooded students like his son, Draco. Add to that Lucius, as a former Death Eater, was in possession of some incredibly valuable artifacts that were, simply put, quite illegal due to the nature of their inherent dark magic, and it becomes a bit clearer as to why Lucius gave Ginny Weasley the diary. For you see, Ginny's father, Arthur Weasley, was the head of the Misuse of Muggle Artifacts Office at the British Ministry for Magic, and at the time, Arthur was conducting an incredible amount of raids on magical households looking for any contraband his department could find, especially that which was explicitly used to harm Muggles and Muggle society. This made families like the Malfoys extremely vulnerable to being raided, and to potentially losing all of their valuable dark arts possessions. In fact, from a scene in which we see Lucius selling off some of his dark objects to the proprietor of Borgin & Burke's, we know that he was forced to sell some of his dark possessions in order to avoid being arrested should his manor get raided. From an excerpt from the Daily Prophet, Harry, Ron and Hermione also learn that Arthur was trying to push through a new law known as the Muggle Protection Act, an act clearly meant to keep Muggles from being harmed by witches and wizards. To a pureblood supremacist like Lucius Malfoy, this must have seemed like an incredible betrayal to the wizarding world. In fact, he basically says as much in that same article excerpt, which read as follows: Inquiry at the Ministry of Magic. Arthur Weasley, head of the Misuse of Muggle Artifacts Office, was today fined 50 galleons for bewitching a Muggle car. Mr. Lucius Malfoy, a governor of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, where the enchanted car crashed earlier this year, called today for Mr. Weasley's resignation. Weasley has brought the ministry into disrepute, Mr. Malfoy told our reporter. He is clearly unfit to draw up our laws, and his ridiculous Muggle Protection Act should be scrapped immediately. Which brings us back to the diary. By giving a child of Arthur Weasley's, Tom Riddle's diary, Lucius was able to accomplish a number of things, all at once. 1. With the diary in Ginny's possession, she would likely become responsible for, at the very least, the deaths or injuries of Muggle children at Hogwarts, putting her father's reputation at risk. 2. With Arthur's reputation questioned, Mr. Weasley's raids on pureblood families, the majority of whom were formerly associated with the Dark Lord, would likely cease. Perhaps Arthur's Muggle Protection Act would never get passed. 3. By way of reopening the Chamber of Secrets, the diary would release the Basilisk and cleanse Hogwarts of all of its Muggle-born students, and the school would be rid of its mudbloods. This brings us to the scene in question, the one in which Lucius allegedly put the diary into Ginny's cauldron. This is the same scene where Arthur Weasley has a run-in with Mr. Malfoy while shopping at Flourish and Blotts, the wizarding bookshop in Diagon Alley. "Busy time at the ministry, I hear," said Mr. Malfoy. "All those raids. I hope they're paying you overtime." He reached into Ginny's cauldron and extracted, from amidst the glossy Lockhart books, a very old, very battered copy of A Beginner's Guide to Transfiguration. "Obviously not," he said. "Dear me. What's the use of being a disgrace to the name of wizard? They don't even pay you well for it." This encounter does not end peacefully, with the two fully grown wizards brawling in the bookshop, much to Molly Weasley's dismay. In any case, before the wizards come to blows, it's speculated that this is the exact moment that Lucius gave Ginny Tom Riddle's diary. In fact, Harry flat out accuses Mr. Malfoy of this later on in the novel, saying, "Because you gave it to her," said Harry, "in Flourish and Blotts. You picked up her old Transfiguration book and slipped the diary inside, didn't you?" "Prove it," he hissed. Of course, as Dumbledore notes, no one was able to prove it, and yet it seems quite clear, based on his motivations and reaction to Harry's accusation, that Lucius did indeed put the diary in Ginny's cauldron for some truly dark and despicable reasons. And with that, we've come to the end of today's video. What did you think? Do you agree? Did I miss anything? Please share your thoughts in the comments below, and as always, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, remember, it does not do to dwell on dreams and forget to live